So I'm going to give an overview of the comp plan background piece for this effort that we're doing. And I'll talk a little bit about what's happening in Montgomery County, what are the trends, where are we going, and what are some of the issues that we see. And then we'll have an opportunity to talk about it among ourselves a little more. So we last did the County Comprehensive Plan in 2005. And we view this plan as a county plan as somewhere, it's coming in between the local municipal plans and a regional plan. And it is providing guidance for issues that transcend local municipal boundaries. So there's a lot of those. Transportation's probably the most dominant one, but there's also things like flooding, economic development, growth trends, trails, natural features, things like that really also transcend local municipal boundaries. We want to focus on those things. So there's two major components to the plan. The first is Montgomery County Today. This is online, and there's also copies available out front. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. Then we're coming up with this Montco 2040, a shared vision. What do we want the county to be like? What are our goals? How are we going to get there? So we have an extensive public outreach process. Leslie mentioned that over 1,400 surveys have been filled up. We're up to about 1,700 surveys now, so real lot there. And then we have on our website lots of other ways of commenting and being involved. So this is our fourth of 4 meetings. We had about 70 people out in Pottstown, about 20 in the Lansdale area, North Penn 1, about 35 or so in Upper Dublin, and it looks like we have about 20 or 25 here today. And if you want to see any of this, the website is montcopa.org/2040complan. So let me jump into the plan, or the background plan itself, and describe that a little bit. So here we are, Montgomery County in the region, and you can see we're right here in King of Prussia. You can see how all the highways intersect in Montgomery County, and we really connect the Philadelphia region to the rest of Pennsylvania. And I think we're known for a variety of things: transportation, shopping, jobs, trails, nice neighborhoods, good schools, a lot of different things the county is known for. We have about 800,000 people, and we're projected to add 94,000 more by 2040. So that's a lot of people. That's a big planning issue. Where are these people going to go? And then one thing to mention on the people of Montgomery County is how we've changed a bit in our households. In 1960, about 90% of people lived in a family household. That's down to about 68%. That's leaving about 32% of folks are not in a family household. They're not related to anyone in that household. A lot of those people are living alone. And a big reason for that is our senior population is growing dramatically and expected to grow 58% between 2010 and 2040. That's a big, big shift. So that's certainly another issue that we need to think about as we're planning for the future. We've also become a much more diverse place. Montgomery County in 1980 was about 94% white. It's down to about 81% white in 2010. And virtually all of the population growth that occurred between 2000 and 2010 in the county was non-white population. Hispanic population has also grown significantly. I heard an interesting story up in Lansdale when we had our meeting there. A commissioner from Hatfield Township mentioned that there are currently 3 religious establishments being built in the community. One was a Coptic Christian church, one was a Muslim mosque, and the third was a Hindu temple. And I think that more than anything really illustrates how we were becoming a much more diverse place than we once were. We're a prosperous place. Our median household income was about $76,000 in 2010. If you adjust for inflation, that's actually a slight decline from 2000. That's not any different than the state, the region, or the nation. That is just a national trend if you adjust for inflation. But we're still the second wealthiest county in Pennsylvania, and we do have, however, some pockets of poverty, which you can see on this map. Turning to the health of county residents, we're generally a healthy place. That goes with being generally a wealthy place. One issue is chronic disease is increasing here as it is everywhere, and that chronic health problems such as diabetes or heart disease is somewhat related to increasing weight and obesity in the county, and that is somewhat related to our built environment. If you can't walk anywhere, then maybe you're not exercising as much. One great trend we've seen is there's more local food available. Farmers markets have really blossomed in Montgomery County, so to speak, and they're all over the place now. Upper Merion has one, and they're bringing fresh food, local food right there for residents. And then we have a lot of new supermarkets. Think about the Wegmans here in King of Prussia, so new types of ways of getting food. Turning to our built environment, we run the gamut from urban small cities to older suburbs, newer suburbs, and rural areas. So on planning issues, really, we have to plan for all different types of planning issues. This map is a little hard to see, but it shows in the dark blue is land developed since 2000, about 1,300 acres or 1,300 acres per year. That's less than what we were doing before, so you don't hear quite as much about sprawl, but there still is sprawling development. We were doing about 2,000 acres a year back in the 80s and 90s. These 1,300 acres, if they were, we keep up at that pace, all of our remaining open fields that aren't preserved and farmland in the county would be developed by 2040. And what are some of the kind of land use trends going on? Retail is continuing to evolve. This picture in the upper left shows a grocery store and a mall. They were in the malls 40 years ago. They're back in the malls. Retail is always changing. There's always pressure for retailers to find new ways of selling their goods. Apartments are hot. We have a lot of apartments in the county. More places are becoming mixed use. Redevelopment and infill is intensifying in many parts of the counties. There are pressures for rezoning. And being green has become much more important than it used to be. Once again, kind of an interesting story I heard at the meeting in Lansdale was a woman who is at Folkways. That was the first continuing care retirement community in the Philadelphia area. They're going completely green. They want to be carbon neutral by 2020. So it's kind of interesting, being green even becoming important for a retirement community. On our natural environment, probably our most connected and prominent natural areas are located along our creeks or our Dahlia-based rock area in this part of the county. So here we are down here. About 27, about a quarter of these areas are currently permanently preserved and protected. Our major issue, natural hazard, is flooding. In Montgomery County, it's not earthquakes, it's not tornadoes. Those things certainly happen. We actually had an earthquake recently. But it's flooding really is the major issue. Here in Upper Merion, maybe sinkholes is closer to being a major issue than it is in other parts of the county. But really, flooding is a major concern. Turning to our open space network, we have 41,000 acres of permanently preserved land, about 13.4% of the county. 7,500 of these acres have been preserved since 2000. So that's a pretty good pace. And we have lots of open space and recreation facilities in the county. Kind of two trends to note. One is we probably have more golf courses than we need. And some of these golf courses are barely hanging on. So there's going to be pressure, and certainly Upper Merion's a good example of a golf course that is being redeveloped. There's going to be pressure on some of these golf courses to redevelop. Another kind of interesting trend is these kind of mega recreation facilities are coming in. They're either areas with lots of playing fields, or there are things like those very large YMCAs that you've seen. One just opened up in my neighborhood over in Havertown. And on our trails, we have about 55 miles. The proposed county trails have been built, 41 of those since 2000. So that's a great thing to see. But as you can see on this map, there's still more trails to build, and certainly the one cutting through Upper Merion and King of Prussia is an important one, the Chester Valley Trail. Turning to transportation, traffic, everyone thinks about traffic. There's a lot of traffic out there. I think one thing that's kind of amazing to me is how much traffic has grown on the roads. I don't know if you can read this chart down at the bottom. Schuylkill Expressway in 1980, 63,000 trips a day, up to 101,000 by 2010. Or if you look at the Turnpike, 41,000 in 1980 to 118,000 in 2010. It's kind of amazing that the roads even function at all. But there's been, certainly rush hour has been expanded to rush 4 or 5 hours. Roads have been expanded a lot, and we're keeping up with it, but it certainly is always a concern. And this shows our major transportation improvement projects. There were a lot more on this list. They got taken off because funding has gone down. Now with the new legislation, I don't know if the governor signed it yet. Does anyone know? So the governor has now signed that legislation, so there's going to be some money coming in for transportation projects again. So that is great news. And then it's coming in also for public transportation. Our ridership on regional rail has increased from 2001 to 11, from 10.5 to 12 million riders. That's a great trend to see. Bus ridership is also up. And I think one important thing that's really changed since I first started as a planner was I used to be the only person out there saying, let's build sidewalks when I was at some of these meetings. And that has really shifted. Now people want to make it possible to walk and to bike from place to place. So that's a really good change. But what it means is, given this history, is you end up a lot of places like this, a lot of places where it is very hard to walk. Turning to the homes in Montgomery County, we have about 325,000 homes. And single-family detached homes have not been dominating the construction as they did in the past. This is a bar chart for 2000-2010. The blue is single-family detached, and the green's multifamily. If you look at the 90s and the 80s, how much single-family detached dominated. And that's really been a shift. Our median sales price in 2012 was $255,000. That's pretty good for, that's a nice, strong, healthy home value. If you compare it with DC or New York, it's cheap. But for many people, it's very expensive. So we still have, I think, some housing affordability issues going on. So we'll need 38,000 additional homes for those extra people who are coming into the county. Plus, there's fewer people in each household. What do we think that means? We think there's a lot of things driving a preference towards attached and multifamily. More seniors, more young people who are less interested in single-family detached homes, more immigrants who might be comfortable living in an apartment. So a number of these trends are pushing us towards, I think, more multifamily. Turning to the county economy, we had about 542,000 jobs. We lead the state in high-tech and manufacturing employment. Strong industries are pharmaceuticals, finance, education, healthcare, insurance. A lot of strong industries, company management here in Montgomery County. And I think one of the interesting things about the county is how spread out our employment is around the county. It's not all in one place. Certainly King of Prussia is our biggest employment center, but we have others. Recent job growth hasn't been quite as good as we would like to see. If you look at the 70s and 80s, the blue bars are percent change in Montgomery County, and the red is percent change in Pennsylvania. In the 70s and 80s, when we were developing all these office and business parks, we were booming compared to the state. It's more even nowadays, and one of the issues that we see is that some of our business parks are getting a little long in the tooth. So how do we help these business and office parks reinvigorate? And then we look at our county's downtowns. Our county's downtowns, a lot of them have improved dramatically over the last decade. You look at in Ambler, Narberth, or West Marshall Street in Norristown, but not all of them. And so we certainly see a need for more of our downtowns to revitalize. And then we have a lot of shopping. I mean, anyone here in Upper Merion knows we have a lot of shopping, but we have 36 square feet per resident compared with 23 nationally. We do draw in from outside of the county, but I think it's safe to say we have enough retail in Montgomery County to meet our needs and the needs of our future population. You can get anything you want in Montgomery County at a store. You should be able to find a store to get what you need. That doesn't mean that developers aren't going to be developing shopping centers and retailers aren't going to be coming in because they want to do their new format, or a new guy the Wegmans wants to come into the market. But what that does mean is some of our older shopping centers and strip commercial areas are going to be under pressure, and we're going to have to be looking at potential reuse of some of these areas. Our infrastructure is very strong in Montgomery County. A lot of it's hidden from view. Some of it's getting old and needs to be updated. And certainly that's an issue that we see, is a need to upgrade some of these old infrastructure. Particularly, I think some of our sewer plants are an issue. And this shows, once again, it's a little washed out, but this is sewer service areas. That's part of the county. And water service areas are pretty similar. And then finally, turning to cultural resources, we're looking at historic preservation and scenic views and libraries. We did that last time around. This time we're also adding arts and culture and looking at how do we increase the visibility of arts and culture in the county. And I think it's an important tool for revitalization of some of our older areas and just helping create a sense of place. So turning to our county assets, we have a lot of assets in Montgomery County. Montgomery County is a great county. It's a very strong place with a lot of real positives. We are an attractive place to live and to work, to play, to recreate. We have a highly educated labor force. We have a diverse and robust economy that we want to keep diverse and robust. We have an extensive highway and transit network, and we have excellent school systems and colleges. So there's a lot of great things about Montgomery County, very, very strong in a variety of ways. There are issues for us to consider as we're moving forward. Transportation congestion remains an issue. What are we going to do about population and employment growth? Our aging population, what does that mean when so much of our population is going to be aging? How do we maintain our quality of life? How do we make the quality of life stronger than it is? Revitalization of our downtowns and employment centers, how do we do that? So those are just a few of the issues that we see. Let me just first touch on the steps here just so you kind of understand how this fits in. We've created a steering committee. We're having 4 public workshops, and this is the 4th of the 4. Then we're going to develop goals and themes for the county over the next couple months, and then go out to the public again. It may not be through a workshop format, it might be online to get your feedback. Come back, draft up some actions, ways of accomplishing these goals, and then looking for a final plan to be adopted at the end of 2014.